Hello there, welcome back to Kitchen Table Modelling. This video is a little bit premature as the vehicle I'm currently working on, I'm suffering some airbrush malfunctions, so just kind of had to stop the painting process on that. I managed to get the load bed painted up and ready for weathering, so I thought I'd do a quick little video on how I make vehicle loads, so things to go in trucks, flatbeds, etc. So the first thing I do, get a bit of cardboard or paper, cut it to the size of the load bed you want. And then it's a case of grab the materials that you want to fill the load bay. So these are all bits and bobs which I've got spare. So I mean, I've got an absolute ton of spare Willis Dupes tyres, oil drums which came with the kit, spare tyre that came with the kit, some bags which were from a different vehicle accessory set. I can't remember what one it was. Some more crates I had left lying around from an old vehicle. More crates. These are from, oh, for the life of me I can't remember. They do loads and loads and loads of different accessories in resin. And these are leftover ammunition crates from a German tank loading crew. So I'm going to get that all organised into a way that I'm happy, and I'll be back. Right then, so I've laid it all out sort of how I want it to appear in the vehicle. The way I've done this, there's no particular method, but it's a bit of common sense if you want it to look sort of realistic. So anything, something to point with. So anything sort of big and bulky, something that's going to be very heavy and likely to move around if you've got to slam the brakes on, you'd want it as far forward as possible. So you'd want it up near a bulkhead. So if you do have to slam on the brakes, it's not going to travel a long way before it hits something solid. Same as the tyre being in here, is to pack out the space between some crates. I'm going to cover up the tarpaulin, so they're not going to be there. I'm going to put something else there, instead of wasting good crates, same as these ones. But a driver would pack something in, or anyone who's loading this vehicle would pack something in that space to stop it shifting about. Set of spare tyres, a crate which has been chucked on lastminute.com, few bags full of all sorts, I don't know, maybe mail, maybe clothing, waterproofs, you name it, and a few other little crates just stacked at the front. So these crates here, instead of wasting a good crate, covering it up with tarpaulin, which is fine if you want to do that, that's fine by me. That's not fine by me. Why did I say fine by me? I don't know. That's absolutely fine if that's how you want to go. If you want to cover up perfectly good crates, which would appear fine on their own, for me, not really an option, as this is all the videos etc. I do is kind of done on a shoestring budget. I don't have a budget. It's as and when I've got a few pennies spare to be able to buy a kit, to be able to buy accessories, to buy paints and whatnot. So these 2 stacks of crates, I went and cut some excess foam I had lying around into rough shapes of how of how it appears as a sort of silhouette. That's what you sort of want to be looking for. You want to be looking for something which is going to be roughly the same size, shape, doesn't have to carry all details, but you want something so when a tarpaulin is covering it, it looks like there's something underneath it. The good thing about the GMC is it's a high-sided truck. So if your tarpaulin doesn't come all the way down to the base of what you're using as a substitute, you don't have to worry about filling in that gap with balsa wood or making a textured surface, because it will be hidden behind the lower board of the truck. So I'm going to glue those together and I'll be back when I'm ready to start tarpaulin. Right then guys, so they're all glued up. The material we're going to use for the tarpaulin is something I experimented with in the Panther snow diorama. It's this stuff. If you know what it is, you know what it is. But I don't condone smoking, even though I smoke myself. Cigarette paper. It reacts well when wet. It doesn't just fall apart. It actually holds its texture quite well, which is good. And it's quite rigid to start with, so you can get some good folds in it, some good creases, and whatnot. Right then guys, now that's all set together. I'm going to add a little bit of detail to these fake crates by adding some raised edges to where, so like prime example, on here, on the lid you got the raised edge, etc. So the tarpaulin will mould to that quite nicely. So all this is literally cut down McDonald's coffee stirrer. Seriously, go to McDonald's, buy a coffee, grab a handful and run. Easiest way to get decent little strips, which are quite easy to work with. They don't cost you anything. Well, they don't really cost you anything. Maybe £2.9 for a cup of coffee now, a big one. And it doesn't matter if you go wrong with them. So these are just going to be adhered with some super glue on top. And the same again for this one. As this one's slightly elevated, you can do the sides as well. It's not completely covered by the hull of the truck. They don't have to be perfect, as it's going to be covered up. You're working with super glue, it dries in. So they're ready to go. So before I put on tarpaulin, quick little disclaimer. Otherwise, people on YouTube aren't going to be happy. The material I'm using. So the material I'm going to be using to cover these for the tarpaulin. A little bit of a disclaimer. I experimented with this, and I had some lying around. Yeah. And that is, I don't condone smoking, even though I smoke myself. Just cigarette papers. It's very good because it's quite a rigid material. Reacts quite well with water. When it's rigid, you can fold it quite well, get some good creases in there. It adheres really nicely. If you want to make a bigger tarpaulin, they've got their own adhesive strips. Actually, one, I've got my model making ruler in front of me. So one typical strip is just shy of 8 feet wide in 1/35 scale. 8 feet by just over 4 foot. So it's a decent sized piece of canvas. So all I'm doing for this, for a smaller box, I'm going to cut one down slightly. And then it's literally a case of over the box. Find the camera. Turn over the box. Fold the lines down the side. Wrap it under itself, or however you want to do it. That's on that watered down PVA glue. That's why I use this material, because when it gets wet, it doesn't tend to flex or decide it wants to bugger off into its own formation. So you can quite easily manipulate it a little bit. There in the middle, okay, we'll just press that slightly. This is some quite natural sags and accumulations. For the bigger one, same again, but I'm going to cover the entire box for this one. That's why I got bigger. Join two of them together. Oh, my hands are shaky today. Same again, just coat with watered down PVA. I know the film for this isn't very good, and this is quite small and quite fiddly. Hopefully it'll turn out all right, and you guys can understand what's going on. Alternatively, you can just dip this in PVA. It will work just as. You can just dip it in the watered down PVA and it will work just as well. Press out some of the seams. And let them dry. Right then, so now the tarpaulin is dry, we come back to the cutout of the load space. I glued the other bits together just using Tamiya extra thin oil cans, fuel drums. So using a bit of blue tack. Sticking them down to on the base as we want them. Definitely helps if you take a reference picture beforehand. Blue tack. So the reason I'm doing this is literally for ease of painting. So you know what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered, and all sorts. So this, I know this is not exactly how it was before, as I didn't take a reference picture. There we go. So now all I'm going to do is paint this with a black primer. As it's on the board, it makes life a little bit easier to get around. So it's going to be painted with black primer, highlighted with white or light grey. So from above, so where light would be directly shining on it. And then get into the individual bits and bobs. May leave it on the board for it. May take it off the board. It's your own personal preference. Right then, guys, so I've primed these up. I primed everything up that I was doing. I went over with a dry brush for the highlights. Just went over with dry brush just to highlight raised areas instead of trying to airbrush it all out. So now I'm just going to go around, airbrush them the main colours I want before moving on to any sort of variations, details, highlights, etc. For the oil drums, stems, dark green. Tyres, tread, obviously, tyre black. The wooden crates, either going to go with this wood or potentially this one I'm going to hand brush on if I use it. Tarpaulins, canvas, etc. There goes the airbrush. Either going to be tan green or ochre, I haven't quite decided yet. Or quite possibly US light green, I haven't quite decided yet. So I'm going to get all those airbrushed in, and I'll join you afterwards. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is use a neat dark wash to highlight any crevices. So it should run quite nicely in the grooves. And my hand stops shaking. Not really too worried about any overspill, as we will clean that up a little bit later. There we go. Now things stay put. I'm going to do one of the crates and one of everything where there's duplicates. So on the tyres, on the box on tyres, same again, around the details, around the handles. Excuse my dog having a drink. On tarpaulins, I'm not really going to mess with these too much, to be honest. I was quite happy how they came out after after dry brushing them and spraying them, but a few little bits and bobs like up underneath here where it sags a little bit. Just touch those in. Okay, now that we've gone around and pin washed certain details, etc., on the entirety of the stowage, I will admit I haven't touched the other crates as I'm interested and keen to try something. Well, not try something, just see how it turns out. The next step is a filter. I didn't know what a filter was until I literally sat down and went, huh? So I did the snow panther in this case. Oh, okay, that's what a filter is. So a filter is basically an extremely watered down wash. So the same wash as I was using to do the pin wash, just washed down, well, thinned out with some enamel thinner. So we'll start with the bags. Gently apply it. I will tone down the colour slightly as well as adhere to the crevices. I am slightly squeezing out any excess of the brush so I don't end up with massive amounts of pooling. mouth of one I've not touched with any pin washers. I'm not going to drain the brush as much. I'll lather this one on and see how it comes out. Same on one that's got a little bit more detailing on the top. See how these come out. Do the same for the oil drums, but won't do all the drums, we'll do one or two of them. Actually, you know what, we'll just do them all. If I remember to hold it in camera. This time I'm literally just lathering it on. Lastly, not lastly, got tires in the box too. And tarp on it. So this time I'm going to dry the brush out a little bit. Just apply it liberally all over. This is just a Billy Basic sort of wash and filter you can do on them. To bring it out, if obviously you're putting them in different scenarios and environments, and you can go a lot further with it. But as you can see, the filter is sitting in any cracks and crevices that you may have missed with pin washing. That's why it's getting lathered on quite a bit. Let's dry the brush out, remove any excess puddles you don't like. It's just going to get lathered all over. Bottom. Let that dry off and we'll be back. So to finish things off, as I'm not going to take this very far with sort of weathering and whatnot, I just want this to be quite a short one. So do a little bit of dry brushing on these fuel barrels. target the raised edges. Something I've never been very good at is dry brushing. That across the top as well. All the points which be used a lot and handled a lot. Generally paint will come off. Maybe quite badly scratched. Right. So there we have it, folks. Very simple and easy method I've used time and time again to make lorry loads and effective tarpaulins. I didn't go as far with the weathering as I would if I knew what diorama this was going with at the moment. I just added a little GI hitching a ride just for a bit of fun. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if possible, as it does mean a massive amount to me, and it helps me out massively. And I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.